There's this thing inside all of us, this itch to face a challenge. Not because we think it'll be easy, but precisely because we know it's going to be hard. Today, we're going to get into a really powerful story about what happens when you decide to run a race you're not ready for, and then life decides to run its own race against you at the exact same time.
And really, it all boils down to this one question, doesn't it? It's a question you've probably asked yourself. Why bother climbing the mountain? Why struggle to learn that new skill? Why do we push ourselves right to the edge of our own limits? This fundamental drive is really the beating heart of the story we're exploring today.
And this quote, man, it just nails it. It says it all. It's not about loving the specific challenge, right? In this case, running. It's about wanting that feeling, that growth, that comes from pushing through something tough. It's a choice, a very deliberate choice to leave your comfort zone behind.
All right, so let's get into the first part of this journey, making that choice. This is that moment of commitment, way before any of the real trouble starts.
So what's the thinking behind a decision like that? Well, it's not random. It's all rooted in what we call a growth mindset. It's this core belief that we don't really get better when things are easy and comfortable. Nope. Real growth, the kind that matters, it happens when we're stretched, when we're struggling, and yeah, maybe when we're even a little bit scared.
So with that mindset firmly in place, she takes the plunge. She signs up for a 10K race. The goal was so simple but so powerful, just to prove to herself, I can do hard things. But here's the kicker. The reality of the situation, she'd never run a 10K. She'd never even run a 5K before. So this wasn't just dipping a toe in the water. This was a full-on cannonball into the deep end.
And this is where the story just flips on its head. She went looking for a challenge, right? What she couldn't have possibly known was that life was about to serve up a whole series of its own challenges, and it wasn't going to hold back.
And things just started to spiral, and fast. The training itself was already brutal. Then, she gets back from this exhausting trip with her 1-year-old, and the very next day, she falls down the stairs. We're talking debilitating pain. And just when you think, okay, that's got to be it, it can't get any worse, a few weeks later, she gets laid off from her job. It wasn't just one bad thing, it was everything, all at once, a total cascade. Her entire world was just turned upside down. I mean, can you just put yourself in her shoes for a second? You start this journey to prove you can handle one hard thing, and all of a sudden you're dealing with a serious injury, you've lost your job, and you're raising a toddler. That little 10K you signed up for, it probably felt like a joke at that point. And this wasn't just a minor sprain we're talking about. The injury was bad. So bad that the fear became terrifyingly real. For a moment, she genuinely thought she might never be able to walk properly again. I mean, that's rock bottom. That's the point where anyone would understand if you just gave up. But, and this is the incredible part of the story, she didn't give up. Instead, right there at that absolute lowest point, something began to shift. This total crisis was about to become an opportunity. This is the real turning point. And here is that mental shift, laid out plain and simple. On one hand, you have the crisis. Hurt, unemployed, with a young child. It looks pretty bleak. But then, she chose to see it differently. She looked for the opportunity inside the crisis. Getting laid off came with a severance package. And what did that mean? It meant 10 weeks of paid time. Time to heal, yes. But even more importantly, unexpected, precious time she could spend with her son. The worst thing that happened was suddenly reframed as a gift.
And boom, that was it. That was the key that unlocked everything. By consciously deciding to find the good in this horrible situation, she turned this catastrophe into what she now calls a blessing in disguise. And that single change in perspective, it gave her all the fuel she needed to keep going. Not just in life, but with her original goal too.
So, armed with this totally new perspective, we're heading into the final act of the story. That goal of running the 10K, it was still there, but now it meant something so much more. And she did it. She actually did it. Despite the injury, the job loss, the fear, the emotional chaos, she got back out there and she finished that 10K. And the feeling she describes wasn't just being proud, it was fulfilling and gratifying.
I mean, she set out to prove she could do hard things, and boy did she ever prove it, in ways she never could have seen coming. So you conquer this absolutely monumental challenge. You'd think, okay, time for a nice long break, right? Well, after about an 8-month break, she's back at it, signing up for a 5K. And she found something really interesting. You'd think a 5K would feel like a walk in the park after a 10K, but nope, it was still hard. It was this amazing reminder that resilience, being tough, it's not a permanent trophy you win. It's a muscle. You have to keep working it out. And you can see how committed she is to that idea. The 10K, that was the foundation. The 5K was like a restart, a way to get back in the game. And now, she's leveling up again. She's training for a half marathon. The goalposts just keep on moving further and further down the field. So where does that leave her today? Well, life is good. She found a new full-time job that she's incredibly grateful for. She's soaking up all that time with her beautiful son. And that fire inside her, that core motivation, it's burning brighter than ever. Her mission now isn't just to do hard things. It's to prove to herself that she can continue to do them no matter how tired she gets.
So what's the bottom line for all of us here? What are the big lessons from this incredible journey? First, real growth only ever happens when you step outside your comfort zone. Second, you have the power to reframe your biggest setbacks into your greatest opportunities. Third, resilience isn't something you're born with, it's a muscle you have to build. And finally, just finishing the race. Whatever your personal race might be, that finish line is the real prize.
And that really just leaves one last question. And this one's for you. Her story started with a 10K, and now it's heading for a half marathon. So what's yours? What's your half marathon? What is that hard thing that you're going to choose to do to prove to yourself exactly what you're capable of?